السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Beautiful subject, beautiful Jama'ah, audience. It's a great pleasure to host this important aspect among the building blocks of our society, love factor, marriage.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين رضي الله عن أزواجه وذرياته وأصحابه وأحبابه والتابعين وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفهما في الدين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله في الأولين. صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله في الآخرين. وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله حتى ترث الأرض ومن عليها وأنت خير الوارثين وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أما بعد، سورة القرآن الكريم الله تعالى says بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. He created for you from you من أنفسكم أزواجا. Your spouses are from you. For you, from you. This is so that on one aspect it makes it very straightforward. It's from you because the entire humanity is from one nafs, as Allah says. Min nafsin wahida. Allah created all people from the same nafs. This way no one says, I come from a better place, or I am better than you, or you are better than me. Nafs wahida, it's one nafs, one human. And طبعا Allah created from it زوجها, لكن in this ayah Allah says وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He made the ingredients of a successful marriage or a successful relationship two things: mawadda, love, and rahmah, mercy. So the Quran puts that right off. When we talk about marriage, there has to be love, there has to be mercy. With that, then the book of Allah Ta'ala assumes and asks both ways that we carry our marriages in such. And that means obviously mawadda and rahmah, love and mercy, is what you put into that marriage. If you don't put love and mercy in the marriage, you're not going to get them. Basically, marriage is what you put into it. Not just marriage. Anything is what you put into it. Friendship is what you put into it. Working for a mission is what you put into it. You don't put into it, not going to give you. Working for the Masjid is what you put into it. Marriage is what you put into it. Well, what do we put into it? The Quran says these two things. Mawaddatan wa rahmah. Love and mercy. And they both come and help in different ways. Love helps in the sense that makes you not amplify the small things in your spouse and make them big. Those who are in love always see the imperfections of their partner as small. If you don't love someone, you look at perfection and try to make it a big imperfection. If you love someone, you look at a big imperfection and you see it almost perfection. That's what, and obviously the Quran Kareem tells us that we're all imperfect. So we all have our imperfection. And since we all have our imperfections, then this love that the Quran Kareem gives us or tells us to have makes it then easier for us to see the beauty in each other rather than the imperfections in each other. The other aspect is rahmah. Al-Quran Kareem asks us to have rahmah. Rahmah is not for the imperfections. Imperfections are covered by love. But rahmah covers faults and mistakes that we will be making. Since Al-Quran Kareem tells us, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, the human being is created weak. عَجُولًا, هَلُوعًا, جَزُوعًا, مَنُوعًا, etc., that the Quran mentions. It means the human being in a rush, human being is frightened, human being panics, human being this, human being is weak. So it seems that we will be making mistakes. It's inevitable yet when you live that you'll make mistakes. If you work, you will make mistakes. If you live, you will make mistakes. That's normal. And for that, mercy comes. Mercy comes to forgive mistakes when they're made. I think with this intro to the topic, we can see how the Quran tries to stabilize a marriage through love, infusions of love and mercy. The love that makes you see imperfections are not necessarily imperfections, and the other grass is not greener. And the mercy that makes you want to forgive when mistakes happen, because you know that you make mistakes too, and you would like to be forgiven, and therefore you extend that courtesy to others. With that, obviously there's this effect after a marriage of rude awakening. Romance becomes an awakening of something that obviously marriage starts with romance, and then once marriage takes place, we become closer to each other. We see each other's imperfections, maybe that we did not see before. So there could be sometimes a turn from romance to either spouses or becoming roommates. Maybe eventually roommates becomes a bit rude awakening. You know, what did I get myself into, and what's going on here, and all these things. And all that becomes because simply of desensitization of where we are with the rude awakening to things after marriage. The point of that is that what we used to gloss over in that era or the time of romance becomes a bit now something to stop at and magnify and become big. We leave that fantasy world, we enter a more realistic world after marriage. And Nabi sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, I'll speak about his life a little bit afterwards, but I want to sort of put some few things here. The important thing for that is setting out expectations and separating between myth and unrealistic expectations and real expectations. That makes us sort of understand each other better, and that romance does not really have to turn into a rude awakening. Oftentimes people have really total myths and total unrealistic expectations of what will happen during marriage or what will happen after marriage. And I think it's important for the young couples that are getting married, or people who are thinking of getting married, or those who are already married, to rethink or represent or re-engage with expectations. what do you expect from me? What do I expect from you? Most of the problems happen because of expectations. There's a totally different levels of expectations on both sides. One side expects something, the other side expects something, and when these expectations don't happen, frustration ensues, anger, and then obviously sort of disenchantment with the whole process of the whole thing, and sort of coming to a rude awakening. So, extremely important aspect is to have a very clear expectations. And that's a moment of truth. Maybe expectations are not going to meet eye to eye right away. Obviously, ideally, these things should have been talked about before marriage. But even though it's important to come and sit and talk about expectations and making them real expectations. Another important aspect that also plagues marriages after some time is the lack of self-direction sometimes. And it's extremely important Islamically and socially that both partners enjoy a happier marriage to sort of become more self-directed, meaning take power and try to move from feeling victimized, from a victim to agency. Moving from a victim to agency. This way, each partner takes a greater control of their life. And that's very important. This is a long-term thing. And if you don't move from victim to agency, you're going to suffer and you're going to also have negative impacts on your marriage. The important thing is to try to be self-directed in life, to enjoy what you want to do, move on with things that you can do, and gain a greater control of your own life. This way, you can also participate and contribute positively to marriage. What that obviously is facing the facts straightforward. And facing the facts that happen usually after marriage is, if he loves me, he will do everything for me. Or if she loves me, she will do everything for me. Sometimes that notion is temporary. It's not really permanent. It's really a working out the schedule together, working out things together. Understanding each other's needs after we've talked about expectations. So that, not just so if he loves me, he understands me, or if she loves me, she understands me. Working these things out rather than assuming that they're there and speaking about them all the time and trying to come to an understanding. Once there's an understanding, things ought to sail comfortably. At least not as terribly, but if there's no understanding, it becomes difficult. The other thing I think in all that is realization that Allah did not create two identical people. No such thing. Since He created us differently, this way it means we have differences. And it's one of the important things in marriage is changing those differences into strength. Making the differences as strength. The last thing I want to say here also as sort of an intro before I go into the prophetic marriage life, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is developing friendship rather than demands. Friendship rather than rights. I am not saying there are no rights on each other, of course there are. But a friendship approach allows an open platform, allows a discussion. When there is, I expect this, how dare you do this? Or how dare you not say this? Or how dare you not do this? It becomes a bit difficult. It's an important thing to, especially for those who are going to be married, to sort of look for a friend before looking for a spouse. Is that person a friend? And even for those who are married, try to establish friendship rather than just what sometimes turn into sort of a roommate situation or convenience. We're just here because it's been there for a long time, etc., etc. And with that, obviously, when we talk about friends, we talk about common goals. What's our common goal in this? Where do we want to go in life? What do we want to reach? Because this temporary moment is not lasting. This is not the objective of a marriage, to be here together today and to be together for tomorrow, let's say in a physical, intimate way. The point is, where do we go from here? What's the objective of marriage? Well, Islam looks at marriage as an act of worship in and of itself, meaning being married actually is an act of worship. But there's also objective for that. Objective for that is to contribute positively to self and others. And that's why I think this ought to be discussed in marriage, in a sense. All right, this is an act of worship. Where do we go from here? What's the objective? What is our goal as a unit, let's say, together? And I think these things are important, whether they're kids in the relationship or there are no kids yet. With that, one enjoys. Once the goal is identified, once the destination is identified, the journey becomes more joyous because we have the same goal. We're going the same way. And the best way to identify that journey is obviously the frame of the book and the sunnah. This way, the book and the sunnah themselves become a standard to which we govern ourselves. If the husband makes mistakes, then he is held up to the standard of the book and the sunnah. If the wife makes mistakes, she's held up to the standards of the book and the sunnah. No one is the standard for the other, but both actually have a standard that they're judged against. And this way it sort of takes the power or a perceived power from one, or the struggle for power sometimes, from one versus the other, and leaves the power with the book of Allah Ta'ala and the prophetic sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to which both they have to sort of answer. Identifying the path, identifying the goal, makes the journey clear. Where are we going? Otherwise, the journey becomes lost. What are we doing? Where do we go? What's our objective? And with this then, obviously, the journey of, or the joy of love, one can then enjoy. After you've set your expectations, after you've set your destination, then you can enjoy the trip. If you haven't done that, you probably won't be able to enjoy that journey, and love then becomes a struggle. But once that's identified, then obviously there's an understanding, and this whole thing becomes much more smoother, and then there's an enjoyment of the joy of love. The Prophet ﷺ, obviously, and I'm going to go through some of the hadith where it sort of takes us to directly how he dealt with his honorable spouses, and various situations, so we can see how love was very vibrant in the prophetic household, and how care and all these things were very vibrant, and how that never really died. And we'll go through many things, among them that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for example, when he was dealing with his honorable spouses, he used to know how they feel, and that means recognize the other's emotional state. And oftentimes we either purposely or we just ignore how others feel, whether for right or wrong, in the sense what they're feeling, right or wrong, but sometimes ignoring. The Prophet ﷺ did not ignore how his honorable spouses felt. And we have a hadith in Sahih Imam Muslim on the authority of Aisha radiallahu anha. قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet ﷺ told me, إني لأعلم إن كنت عني راضية وإن كنت علي غضبا. He told Aisha, you know Aisha, I know when are pleased with me, and I know when you're angry at me or angry with me. So he's telling her, I know these things. فقلت ومن أين تعرف ذلك? I told him, so I told her that he must have told her that when she was not upset with her. So she told him then, how do you know that? How do you know when I'm upset with you and when I'm not upset with you? He told her sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قال أما إذا كنت عني راضية, when you are pleased with me, فإنك تقولين لا ورب محمد. Then when you say something, you say by the Lord of Muhammad. When you're pleased with me, you say, oh Rabbi Muhammad, by the Lord of Muhammad, this, by the Lord of Muhammad. وإذا كنت غضبان, and when you are upset or angry with me, you say لا ورب إبراهيم. Now you swear by the Lord of Ibrahim, not the Lord of Muhammad. sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قالت قلت أجل والله. She said, I said, you are named by Allah. والله يا رسول الله ما أهجو إلا اسمك. By Allah, O Prophet of Allah. When I'm upset, I only don't want to mention your name. That's it. And that shows you again that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is then interacting and responding to doesn't neglect the emotional state of his wife until she grows really extremely frustrated. And obviously, on the other hand, you have an understanding wife, and you have Sayyida Aisha, Faqiha, Alima, Zakiya, she was intelligent, she's understanding. So you have that as well. It's not just one way, but obviously also, does not neglect how she feels. And that's very important sometimes mere recognition of the others. So when there are emotional things happening, or when the Prophet ﷺ realizes that there's some derecognition, and sometimes the derecognition of something tells you that diffuses the situation. You're just recognizing the situation. Another thing also, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, another example, another picture. We're going to go through pictures, different scenes of the Prophetic life. All those things. Another picture, you see that he recognizes mistakes and doesn't react to them. Recognizes mistakes and doesn't react to them. Bukhari narrates a hadith on the authority of Anas. قال Anas says, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عند بعض with one of his wives. فأرسل إحدى أمهات المؤمنين بصحبة. Basically, the Prophet ﷺ was with Sayyida Aisha. Sayyida Aisha, the Nabi ﷺ was with her. Salama, the other woman, she sends a food, platter of food to him. Now, where does she send it? And he is with the Sayyida Aisha. So when the servant comes with the platter of food, the Sayyida Aisha pushes the khadim's hand, in a sense, what he has in his hand, so that the platter falls and breaks with the food in it, falls entirely. فجمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, somebody is sending you food. Would you like this? So yes, please do. And النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, he gathered the broken pieces and he brought the food that was in them. ويقول بارك الله. He said to his companion or to the people there, he said, your mother became jealous. Your mother became jealous. And he did not do anything or did not say anything after that. He went, collected the food and ate. One of the aspects you see that. And that shows you how, again, sort of absorbing the situation. Another example, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we have a Muslim telling us in general, استوصوا بالنساء خيرا. Women, be kind, be extra kind. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muslim here, went and said it twice. So, pay extra attention, pay extra attention, pay extra attention. And then we go to another aspect in his life. You see him consulting his wife, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in one of the most difficult situations in his life. The hadith is like Bukhari in Al-Hudaybiyah. Al-Hudaybiyah, as you know, was a peace accord that was signed between Quraysh and between the Muslims. Not easy. Convoys of diplomats were coming forth to sign. And they were trying to convince the Prophet ﷺ, look, don't come in this time, do this. And then they gave him a set of conditions that were very difficult. Very difficult set of conditions. You all know these conditions. The conditions were if someone becomes Muslim, then and comes to you, you reject, you send him back to us. If someone leaves Islam from here and comes to us, we accept him. Etc., 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 some really difficult conditions. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال says في حديث عن عمر رضي الله عنه قال فأتيت نبي الله عمر was حديث صحيح البخاري. He said I came to the Prophet فقلت ألست نبي الله حقا? Aren't you the Prophet of Allah truly? قال لا. قلت ألسنا على الحق وعدونا على الباطل. Aren't we on the haq and our opponent is on the evil, on the wrong? Are you in doubt that they're right and they're wrong? You are right and they are wrong. قلت Umar saying, فَلِمَ نُعْطِي الدَّنِيَّةَ فِي دِينِنَا إِلَّا. Then why do we give the lower hand then? Why are we allowing this to play us like this? قال إني رسول الله. He said, I am the Prophet of Allah. ولست أعصي, and I will not disobey him. وهو ناصر, and he will grant me victory. They're giving you terrible conditions. You accept them, and everyone is upset. And you tell them, you know what, I am the Prophet of Allah. I am obeying what Allah is saying, and He will grant me victory. قلت أولست كنت تحدثنا أننا سنأتي Umar said to the Prophet, weren't you telling us that we would come to the house, the Kaaba, and we would do tawaf around the Kaaba? You were telling us that before? that we will come and we will tawaf around the Kaaba. قال فإنك أمير ومبروك. So he told them, so you will go and you will do tawaf and you will go to the Kaaba. قال فأتيت أبا بكر. I told him, فقلت يا أبا بكر, I told him, أليس هذا نبي الله حقا? Is he the prophet of Allah? قال بلى. قال قلت ألسنا على الحق وعدونا على الباطل؟ أردت من الحق أو إنني زعمت الله؟ قال قلت بلى. قال فلم نعبد الذين من عمر did exactly the same thing to us. So why do we give it? قال أيها الرجل سيدنا أبو بكر رضي الله عنه look back. أيها الرجل أو man إنه رسول الله. He is رسول الله وليس يعصي ربه وهو لا يعصره. He will not disobey his Lord. Believe him. فوالله إنه على الحق. By Allah he is on the حق. Anyway, فلما فرغ من قضية الكتاب, when they finished the book, meaning writing the agreement between Quraysh and Muslims, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لأصحابه, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم told his companions, قوموا فانحروا ثم احلقوا. Stand up, do nahar, offer sacrifice, and then shave. Counting as they came. So go stand up, sacrifice, and shave. Allah says, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا خَافَ مِنْهُمْ رَجُلٌ. Now not even one of the Sahabas obeyed. حتى قال ذلك 3 مرات. Stand up, sacrifice, فدخل عليه النساء. يا نبي الله. يعني when even people, you see how he resorts to his wife, فقالت يا نبي الله. اخرج leave the stand now ثم لا تكلم منهم احدا منهم كلمه. حتى تنحر until you offer your sacrifice وتدعو and you call your brother to shave, to cut your hair. And don't talk to them. Just go. قال فخرج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم stood up, left the tent of Salama, and when he offered the sacrifice, he shaved, and فلما رأوا ذلك قاموا. When they saw that, they all stood and they started. That shows you how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this hadith of Salama, how he valued the opinion of his wife and how she was critical in one of the most difficult situations in the story of the baby, and how he followed or how listened to her advice, and he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did what she did. And how her advice was exactly. Another picture. We'll go with the picture. Another aspect, the Prophet ﷺ was seen through his experiencing, or how he experienced him putting love in his home or planting love in his home. When he speaks to Salama like this and she gives him this kind of advice and she stands with him, this is love. When he's telling the Sahaba, they stand and do and there. And they don't, and Salama tells them, Ya Nabi Allah, go do this alone, and then they will, let's see what happens. Another thing, where we see Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam expressing his commitment to his honorable wife. And with this, we have a Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha. Al-Bukhari and Muslim both narrated in their Sahih on the authority of Aisha radiallahu anha قالت قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كنت لك كأبي زرع لأم زرع. A long story about someone named Abu Zar and Zar, and how they were devoted and committed to each other. It's a story about a couple that were committed to each other, and the Prophet ﷺ, after Sayyidina Aisha mentioned that story of those spouses being committed to each other, he tells her, I am to you like Abu Zar was committed to Zar. And sometimes in that, from this hadith or from this picture, you see how the Prophet ﷺ displays his commitment, tells her his commitment. And sometimes these things in marriage also are important, especially when people get upset with each other. When they get upset with each other, they say, you know what, I don't know why I got into this anyway. I don't know if this is going to even last. All these things they saw lots of problems in marriage. You're planting problems in marriage. You're planting that sort of option or that sort of thing that it is not going to go on, that's not going to keep going, that's not going to happen. And where the Prophet ﷺ, obviously that's going to impact love. Where the Prophet ﷺ was telling the Sayyida Aisha, I have commitment to, I'm committed to you, like the commitment of Abu Zar to the commitment of Zar. And that expression of that commitment, obviously, of love and devotion in marriage, that also rekindles that light of love in marriage. And that's important. That's being expressive on an aspect of devotion here, to say the least. Another thing, nicknaming, and nicknaming out of love. All right, we all have our own names. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to nickname Aisha, as we have the Sahih. He tells her, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لعائشة يا عائش, O Aish, nicknaming her, sort of giving her a, what do you call it, a name of indulgence, a name of allowing her to, nickname, a nice nickname, a loving nickname. And that's the Aish, because, oh Aish. So instead of, for example, oh Aisha. And that's also an expression of love. And that's the expression of putting love and rekindling it in the relationship. Another aspect here, Sayyidah Aisha says, hadith also fi Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ, she says, I used to drink and I would hand him the cup that I drank from. فَيَضَعُ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فِيهِ. He chooses where I put my mouth on the cup, and he puts his mouth on the same place on the cup. Now this is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And where his honorable wife was drinking, he looks at it when she hands him, and he puts his mouth right on the same place where she put her mouth, her honorable mouth as well on that. And also the hadith says, also when I used to eat some meat, I would eat it, and then he would take it from me, and he would finish it. Right? At the end of it. So, يَضَعُ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فِيهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَلَيْهِ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And that's also one of the expressions of these things, right? Of trying to bring that love into the marriage. Another thing that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for example, did not find her when she was not doing well, or when she was and that was something in the old days, especially in the old days when women had to go through their monthly thing. The men at that time would just abandon them entirely and would not even come close to them, etc., etc., etc. And Imam Muslim narrates in his Sahih that Sayyidah Aisha used to say, I used to actually comb the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I would comb his hair, and not only I would comb his hair while I was on that period of the month, but also كان يتكئ في حجري وأنا حائض ثم يقرأ القرآن. حديث البخاري Muslim. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to lean on me, and he would actually read the Quran then. All these things, today we call these things lean on me, or put his head on my laps. Or put his head on my chest, basically. Today, in nowadays language, we call that cuddling. In that sense, I'm assuming. English is not my first language. يَتَّكِئُ فِي حِجْرِي صَلَّى اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَلَيْهِ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And he would lean towards me, and he's leaning towards me, and I'm reading, and he's reading the Quran. Those are some scenes of the life of the Prophet ﷺ with the honorable wife. Another thing, for example, another picture. He used to, the hadith is Sahih Bukhari Muslim, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا كان بالليل, at night he would take night walks with her. كان سار مع عائشة, nighttime comes and evening comes, he goes and walks with her. It's cool, nighttime is the desert, the weather is not that hot. The weather is not that comfortable, so he would take some time, right, walking outside with his honorable wife. And as Sayyidah Aisha says, يَتَحَدَّثُ مَعَهَا. They're talking, they're having a friendly banter, a friendly conversation as they're walking at night. And that was a practice also of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that's also something that we look at today. Maybe all these things are things that we are reminded by the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he was doing. Another thing that we have also, helping her in the affairs of the house. Al-Bukhari narrates, she says, Sayyidah Aisha says, what was the Prophet ﷺ doing at home? Was he helping? قالت كان في مهنة أهله. The Prophet ﷺ was in the help of his family. He would help. Another hadith في أحمد, كان بشرا من البشر. At home, he was a human being. يخيل ثوبه ويحكم شاته ويخدم نفسه. يخيل ثوبه means he sews his own clothing. He doesn't the button or something, or the clothing is left. He doesn't just throw it or says, why don't you fix it for me? He does it himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says. And not only that, وَيَحْلِبُ شَاةً. And he goes to his own goat, and he gets the milk from his own goat. And وَيَخْدِمُ نَفْسَهُ, and serves himself. sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And that is what? That shows you that in the house, he's helping her. He's a participant thing in what was at that time absolutely woman's thing. Right? Maybe nowadays it's the other way around. But in the old days, it was entirely a woman's thing. That's what she was doing. But he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 1500 years ago, almost he goes and he sutures his own thing, his own clothing, and he milks his own goat. And the goat is right there. Right? And he serves himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's what? That's helping her and lightening also the load that she has in the house. Right? Another aspect also from the life of the Prophet. And these things, you'll see those of us who are married, you know that your spouse will tell you, it's sentimental. You help a little bit, it means a lot. You don't have, unless she sees you doing something, she says, okay, just go. You don't even know how to do it anyway. You're making a bigger mess. Right? So just leave it and go, I'll do it. But basically, the willingness to do, the wanting to say, you know what, I want to help, let me do something. That by itself brings a smile. He's helping. He's not like, he doesn't just say, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was actually helping. Not just saying, offering to help, but he was actually helping. And that brings love. That brings love in the heart of or in the house in general. More, you see the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam suffering sometimes for the happiness of his household. Also, Hadith al-Bukhari Muslim, on the authority of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, she says, Abu Bakr radiallahu anha دخل عليها وعندها جاريتان في أيام منى يلففان وتضربان والنبي متغشا بثوبه. Abu Bakr enters, days of Mina. Days of Mina. He comes into the house of the Prophet ﷺ. Sayyidina Aisha is sitting, and she has two women with her. They're singing and beating the drums. When Nabi ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ, is laying down and he's covering his face, he's very tired. He's trying to get some sleep, and he's covered up. متغشًا بثوبه. He's covered up with his thing. When Abu Bakr came, فانتهرهما أبو بكر. Abu Bakr came and said, what are you doing? Don't you see him sleeping? فكشف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وجهه. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم then unveiled his honorable face when he heard Abu Bakr came in and said that. فقال دعهما يا أبا بكر. Leave them, Abu Bakr. فإنها أيام عيد. Days of Eid, she wants to be happy, let her be happy. Even though I'm sleeping, I'm tired, I'm this, let her. It's okay, it's a day of Eid. And now you see him what? You see him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taking on himself, despite all these things, to make her happy. She is happy with these two women, they're singing and beating the drums and all this, even if it's right next to him and he's trying to sleep, allow them to do so. Taking on himself to provide her more space for happiness. If that brings her happiness, right? And that's something, obviously, if Abu Bakr did not do that, we wouldn't have known. Abu Bakr went in and actually talked, what are you doing? And he actually told Abu Bakr to leave that. Not only that, when disagreements happen, gives her the space. Because obviously the Prophet ﷺ is a powerful figure. But you have dominant figures, you have powerful figures, and sometimes it's important to give that space when disagreements happen. Hadith al-Tabarani or Khatib al-Baghdadi narrated on the authority of Aisha. قالت, she says, كان بيني وبين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلام. Between me and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم there was an argument. Aisha said. فقال بمن ترضين أن يكون بيني وبينك. Who would you like to be a mediator between you and me? أترضين بأبي عبيدة بن الجراح? Would you like to get mediation now? We're at that, at that level. Would you like to bring Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah as a mediator? قالت لا. She said, no, Abu Ubaidah will accept him. It was one of the 10, one of the 10. ذاك رجل لين. He's a soft man. يقضي لك عليه. Probably will stand with your side. He loves you so much and he will stay you right. قال أفترضين بعمر بن الخطاب؟ قال عمر. قال لا. No. إني لا. I escaped from Umar. إني لا أفرق من عمر. Umar now is another story. I am escaped from Umar. قال أترضين بأبي بكر? Look how he's going with her. Who do you want to mediate? You want Abu? And all these people are top people, top brass of the Sahaba. He says, okay, how about your own father? You like your own father to be the judge? قالت نعم. She says, yes, I accept. I accept. Bring my own daddy. Okay. قال فبعث إليه. He asked him to come. فجاء. Abu Bakr came. He didn't know what's going on. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اقضي بيني وبين هذه. Be the judge between me and her. قال أنا يا رسول الله. You want me to be the judge between you and her? قال نعم. فتكلم رسول الله. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم started now giving his side of the story. فقال اقصد يا رسول الله. Speak right, O Prophet of Allah. Don't talk too much. You say that. فرفع أبو بكر يده. Abu Bakr رضي الله عنه, when he heard this, he pushed her. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, ما أردناك لهذا. This is not what we brought you here, Abu Bakr. We didn't bring you here to take sides. Even if she says, speak right, O Prophet of Allah. And Abu Bakr is saying, are you in your mind to tell the Prophet of Allah speak right? He always speaks right. Let him speak and you speak. But she would not let him completely speak. When he speaks, she said, but speak right. Right? And that shows you how the Prophet ﷺ, again, in this he goes and he tries to give her that space and even defend her when obviously he thinks he was right and she was wrong. Another thing also, we have another depiction here. And obviously here when the spouse herself is wanting to bring someone, and the Prophet ﷺ is even more loving to her than the very mediator she actually accepted. There's love there, there's care there, there's all these things. Another depiction or another picture in the life of the Prophet ﷺ from the household of Rasulullah ﷺ is giving gifts. Giving gifts. Right? Giving gifts. And not always expected gifts. The hadith also on the authority of Aisha al-Bukhari, she said, ما غبت على أحد من نساء النبي ما غبت على خديجة وما رأيتها. I was never jealous from any of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ like I was jealous from Khadija, though I've never ever met her. You never ever saw her. I said, I never ever met her. Never seen her. ولكن كان النبي يكثر ذكرها. But the Prophet ﷺ used to mention her a lot. وربما ذبح الشاة ثم يقطعها أعضاء ثم يبعثها في صدائق خديجة. And when he used to give a sacrificial animal, he would cut it and he would send it to the friends of Khadija after Khadija died. He may not even know these friends that well or directly. But because he heard that they are friends of Khadija, and Khadija radiallahu anha had passed away, he would send gifts to the friends of Khadija. Not gifts to Khadija, his wife, gifts to the friends of his wife because of the honor of Khadija. Right? قلت, Sayyida Aisha says, كأنه لم يكن في الدنيا امرأة إلا خديجة. Like the whole dunya, there's no woman but Khadija. Khadija this, Khadija this. فيقول إنها كانت وكانت وكانت. So I tell him something, he tells me she was this and she was this and she was this. Another aspect you see, so again, the issue of giving gifts, the issue of caring about the friends of the spouse, even if you didn't know them, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In this case, you knew them, but still. Another picture, again, there are lots of pictures in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam where he planted love himself, citing the good things, what he loves about them. So, the Bukhari Muslim both also on the authority of Aisha says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he talked to all his wives, he told them, أسرعكن لحاقا بي أطولكن يدا. And he told them, the first one amongst you who will follow me to Jannah is the one who has the longest hand. قالت فكن يتطاولن أيتهن أطول يدا. So they tried to measure which one's hand is longer, because they want to know who's going to be the first to follow the Prophet ﷺ to Jannah. But then Sayyida Aisha realized, قالت فكانت أطولنا يدا زينب. Zainab was the longest hand, had the longest hand, not in the sense of length, but لأنها كانت تعمل بيدها وتصدق. Because she used to give so much sadaqah. Her hand was extended in every place. So what he meant by long hand is that her hand was involved in so many good things, and that's why she gets to be the first one. So here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is what? Highlighting a quality that's excellent and praising that quality. And sometimes it's important to highlight the good things. We often talk about the negative things, but also it's important to speak about positive things, good things. Another thing also, that not to forget the good days. Sometimes in marriage there is good time and tough time. And having tough times should not make you forget the good times. Regardless what happens, and Hadith al-Tabarani also, Sayyida Aisha says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا ذكر خديجة. If he mentions Khadija, he will not be bored from praising her and talking about her way after she passed. فذكرها ذات يوم. One day he mentioned her. واحتملتني الغيرة. I was filled with jealousy. إلى أن قلت, until I said, قد عوضك الله من كبيرة السن. Allah replaced the old one with a new one for you. Young one. Keep talking about an old one. She's old, Allah gave you a new one, or a young one instead. قال فرأيت رسول الله قالت فرأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم غضب غضبا شقط في جلده. She said, I've never seen the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم he become this angry. فقلت في نفسي. When I saw this, I said in myself, Ya Allah, if you take away the anger of your Prophet, I'll never mention her with anything wrong so long I live. In her heart, she's saying, right? فَلَمَّا رَأَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم الَّذِي قَدْ لَقِيتُ. When the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم heard what I said, قَالَ كَيْفَ. What did you just say? Allah replaced you with someone young? What did you just say? وَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ آمَنَتْ بِي إِذْ كَفَرَ بِيَ النَّاسِ. By Allah, she believed in me when all people did kufr in me, disbelieved in me. وَصَدَّقَتْنِي إِذْ كَذَّبَنِي النَّاسِ. And she took me for what I said as truth when the people called me liars. Liar.